as well as political reinforced demand for national sovereignty. So we have the system where there is no more hegemony for one nation, but this multipolarity is driven by this economic catching up. And that creates an atmosphere where political demands for national sovereignty are even stronger and stronger. The second aspect I think is important. It is that the positive narrative of economic globalization and interdependence is now deeply contested with the economic crisis. Of course, in particular, in the major economy of the OECD, but even when you look at emerging economies who are, of course, benefiting still from the economic globalization, the idea that interdependence is a positive factor is beginning to really fail. So, catching up, nurturing economic nationalism, and finally the positive story rhetoric of economic globalization failed. And on top of that, the system has grown, of course, in complexity. What we have been introduced in the beginning on how UN can now introduce consultation, preparation for a specific set of decisions like the Sustainable Development Goals, you see sort of a vast array of mechanism, consultation, stakeholders, even if, and Rio Plus 20 for the one who were there, the governments decided really to have a negotiation for Sustainable Development Goals led by parties, not by the Secretary General. Nevertheless, the whole system is still very complex. It's not only governments, but of course, by necessity, also actors, global, local. So multi-scale and multi-scale stakeholders are nevertheless, and even if we are a world of nations, are part of the discussion. So, and we have a phenomenon of empowerment on non-state, global, subnational actors with no real governance mechanism to involve them. So that, I think, is why we, in a way, have a so weak text, and a text that is really not helping international cooperation and collective action. So we have had this definition of this, one of these major output of Rio Plus 20, the Sustainable Development Goals. And in a way, this has been presented, and in particular by the government in Colombia and Guatemala, as a way out, how to have something concrete, how to have a perspective after Rio Plus 20, which will not be only the statu quo or the inventory of whatever we discussed and decided everywhere in every convention or in every agreement. So that's what the idea that the international community decided it was the positive outcome. So it has, from this point of view, a huge political importance, even more than the environment governance reform or others elements. And you saw that there was no consensus to really have green economy or green growth as a common denominator. Really, the consensus was not there. But yes, on the idea that we could have global, inclusive, as universal goals. So it's important. But of course, what is or what will be in it is still, of course, totally open. So a lot of contradiction, universal, but locally defined and designed. The idea that we will have a top-down process to define targets for sustainable development applicable to all, even with differences, is of course, I think, my judgment is pointing nowhere. So the only chance for sustainable development also to represent something serious would be to really be owned by societies within their local context. For this reason, I think the importance, so universal brings a huge merit, that is, if we consider social inclusion, poverty elimination or reduction, USA, France, UK will be concerned, as well as Mali, Burkina Faso. And I think that's positive. But at the same time, you see the huge differences in the economic development, even looking at the emerging economies. But that means we will not have a common definition of, or very qualitative if we want them to be universal. So I think one very important point of view from this conference is the processes that will lead to the discussion and definition of these sustainable development goals. That's why I think the elaboration method of the sustainable development goal will be as important as the final result. Because sustainable development goals are about a development model question, that opening that question everywhere is absolutely central to the discussion. So promoting domestic discussion to create ownership and to empower agents of change in the society, I think that's the channel where, through which I think this sustainable development goals discussion can begin to be really a pathway out of the way out of crisis of sustainability. And we can have two models. One would be the sort of classical, sort of comparable to MDGs, which is we have the three pillars: environment, social justice, economic efficiency, and we have to balance these three pillars and to have deliverable targets that can balance these three pillars. And that will be rather conservative in the definition of this thinking of the Sustainable Development Goals. But if we have a different view, much more ambitious one, which is SDGs are not about how much social justice, how much economic efficiency, how much environmental protection per se, but much more what could be objective of transformational pathways of the economic development, of the social development, then we have a very different perspective even on the discussion of the SDGs. So we will have or a vision of deliverable targets, or at the contrary, milestones to sustainable agriculture, sustainable energy, or sustainable urban systems. But, and that will be my 2 or 3 last messages, I think we should not forget in the process the lessons learned from the past. We are in a global governance system, which is a world of nations together with a world of networks. And we have to combine the two. Even if we don't know exactly how to combine this world of nations with not disappearing, with a world of networks which is increasing. I think we have to acknowledge that the emerging powers express a new preferences and at the same time are defining a new vision of sovereignty. And we have to understand that from the inside and to understand the consequences for the global architecture. We have to face the problems that we have multi-scale issues everywhere. And in particular, when we see the involvement of local governments in every area of environment policies or social policies, contesting national governments, we have, of course, to recognize that these, as political actors, are putting these multi-scale issues everywhere. At the same time, like, I think that's very much a theme of this Earth system governance project, the common pool resources, which are sort of a central piece of management at these different scales, and the relation with the global commons. And of course, one cannot forget the seminal work of Oranium on that part, together with David Post. At the same time,